Hi guys, it's Mr. Mustafa here. In this video we're going to solve Mathematics Paper 1 May-June 2023, which was basically the supplementary examination. So let's go straight into question 1. So we have this equation, quadratic equation, is already in standard form. So what we can do is we can factorize by putting an x and an x, because we know x times x is already equal to 0, right? It's already in standard form, so we can factorize. So what I've done is I put x and x, and using factors of 12, I know 3 and 4 works. 3 times 4 is 12, so minus 3 times minus 4 is 12, and minus 3 minus 4 gives me minus 7. So make sure you check the sum and the product. So what's the answer? X equals 3 or x is equal to 4. I hope you guys understood that. Now if you want to use a calculator and work out those factors, you can always do it. You can go to mode 5 3, enter the values of a, b, c. So the value of a is 1, the value of b is negative 7, and the value of c is negative 4, negative 12. Value of c is negative 12. So x squared minus 7x plus 12 plus 12 plus 12, right? So I've got a value 1, b value which is minus 7, and c value which is 12. If I press equals, I get x equals 4. There's one answer here. So you just take that over and put it into factors, and x2 equals 3. So just take it over and put that into factors. I hope you guys understood that. Moving on to the next question, what we have is x into 3x plus 5 is equal to 1, correct to 2 decimal places. Now when they tell you that, you have to use a quadratic formula, so open up everything, write it in standard form. So we got 3x squared plus 5x, bring the 1 over, minus 1 is equal to 0. So I have it in standard form. I know the value of a is 3, the value of b is 5, and the value of c is equal to negative 1. Now we're going to put this into the quadratic formula, which is x equals minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Okay, so the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a, right? So we're dividing it by 2a. So I know minus b will be minus b, which is minus 5, right, plus minus. Now when you substitute, just put it into brackets, because sometimes when you have a minus you forget. So right, so just be careful. This is 5 plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, right? So b squared will be 5 squared minus 4ac. So let's write that down. 5 squared minus 4, a is 1, a is 3, and the value of c is negative 1, right, all over 2 times 3, right? So what do we get? Let's put it one more step here. We know minus 5 will be 5, minus 5 here, plus minus. Let's work out what's inside the square root, right? So mode 1, square root 5 squared, and I think the next one is just plus 12, right? So I'm getting square root of 37, and I'm going to divide it by 6. So now I can get two answers, x equals or x equals. Let me just space this out, because we have two answers, right? So x equals, in terms of decimal value, let me just enter this whole thing. You can, right? So let's say minus 5 minus the square root of 5 squared minus 4, a is 3 and c is negative 1, right, all over 2 times 3, which is just 6, right? So I'm getting this answer. Press SD, you're getting negative 1,85, right? And the next one, press SD, we're getting negative 1,85, second answer. Oh yes, put a plus here now. For the second answer, we are getting 0,18 and 0,18. Now I just want to check this up with the calculator, like mode 5 3, mode 5 and 3. Why are we selecting option number 3? Because that's the one that's quadratic. So a is 3, b is 5, and C is -1. I just want to see if I'm getting those two answers. Yes, 0,18, and the second answer -1,85. So I hope you guys understood that. Right, so just use the quadratic formula and put it into the calculator. Moving on to the next problem. Right, this problem here is a inequality. What type of inequality is this? This is a quadratic inequality. So we're going to bring everything over and factorize. So we have x squared plus 2x minus 15 is less than 0. Now we're going to factorize this. So we're going to use x, and that's less than 0. And the values that work is 5 and 3, because 5 times -5 times +3 is -15, and also 3 should be the other way around, because we have a +2 here. So change this into +5 and -3, because +5 -3 gives me 2x. Right, so make sure you check the sum and the product. And now we're going to solve this. So we draw a number line, alright, and the critical values are, you can use graphs, right? So, and the critical values are -5 and 3, right? So we have plus, minus, plus. How we get this is substitute one of the values after 3, like the number 10, inside this. Factors, 10 plus 5 is 15, 10 minus 3 is 7, 7 times 15, you get a positive answer. Once you have positive, alternate the signs only if you have linear factors. You only alternate if you have linear factors. See, the first bracket is linear, second bracket is linear, then you can alternate the sign. So now my answer is between -5 and 3, because I want a negative answer. Right, so negative answer. How you know we want positive and negative answer? Look at the last inequality. So my answer is -5. X is greater than -5 but less than 3. I hope you guys understood that. Right, so moving on to the next problem. Okay, so we have a surd equation, and we know we get a restriction for surd equation. The restriction is that the square root of anything is always positive. So in other words, that anything value is x minus 1, which is greater than equal to 0. So x is greater than equal to 1. So I can only accept answers which is greater than equal to 1. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to square both sides, right? So when you square both sides, you get 2 into 1 minus x is equal to x minus 1 all squared. Right, now let me write the x minus 1 all squared here, and take that and write this 2 minus 2x on the other side. Right, so x minus 1 all squared, writing it over here, will give me x squared minus 2x plus 1. Because I squared the x, I squared the 1, I got positive, positive. Middle term is the product of these two with the opposite sign, so minus 2x. Now what we can see is that the minus 2x and the minus 2x on both sides cancels out. If I take the 1 over, okay, bring the 2 over, you will get x squared minus 1 is equal to 0. And what we notice is that we have difference of 2 squares. So we got x plus 1 into x minus 1 is equal to 0. Now we got x is equal to -1 or x is equal to 1. But clearly we can't take x as 1 as an answer, because we have a restriction. So you know that not applicable here. Or if you substitute into the original equation 1, you're going to get square root of 0. Does 1 work? Yeah, it's greater than equal to 1. So you can choose 1 as the answer as well. And -1, can I choose -1? Yes. No, I can't choose -1 as the answer, because greater than 1 means 1 or more. So I can only choose numbers that's 1 or more. I can't choose -1 as the answer, because when I substitute -1 into the original equation, remember the original equation is, check the right hand side, -1 is -2. Can the square root of anything be negative? No. So that's why we write not applicable. Alright, so there's only one answer, which is x equals 1. Next one, solve for x and y simultaneously. How are we going to solve for x and y simultaneously? Right, we have an exponential equation, the first one, but there's no stress, because we know when we have an exponential equation, we drop the bases and equate the indices. So we got 3 to the power x plus y is equal to 3 cubed. Therefore x plus y is equal to 3, right, because we drop the bases. 3 cubed is 27. Now we can just say y is equal to 3 minus x. Now y is equal to 3 minus x, substitute it inside here. Right, substitute it inside the y value. So what we have is x squared plus 3 minus x all squared is equal to 17. So we got x squared plus 9, product of these two with the opposite sign, and times the product of 3 and minus x times 2, not opposite sign. 3 times minus x is minus 3x, times 2 is minus 6x, and square the x, you get plus x squared, and bring the 17 over, minus 17 is equal to 0. So write it in standard form, x squared minus, we can see x squared plus x squared is 2x squared, right? We got minus 6x, that's the only one, and then plus 9 minus 17 is minus 8 is equal to 0. Now divide everything by 2 because you want to write it in standard form and factorize. Okay, right, so what we have is x, factorizing this will give me minus 4, and x plus 1 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 4 or x is equal to minus 1. Now if I substitute 4 inside here, 3 minus 4 is minus 1, or y is equal to, substituting minus 1 inside x, 3 minus minus 1 is 4. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Right, so these are my solutions. Moving on to the next problem. Okay, so what we have is a surd, and it's like continuing till, I don't know, maybe like 50 or 100 terms. It continues for, I think, 50 terms. Right, so there's 50 terms in the sequence of surds. We can't really figure out whether it's geometric or quadratic or what type of sequence, but what we can do here, this question is quite difficult, huh? Right, they usually have difficult questions in you know, the third part in question 1. So let's look at this. Now if you observe the first surd, I'm going to start with the rationalization and see what I can get. So I know 1 over the square root of 1 plus root 2. I'm going to rationalize. So I'm going to get root 1 plus root 2, not plus. When you're rationalizing, you multiply by the conjugate, over root 1 minus root 2. So what we get for this one is root 1 minus root 2 over 1 minus 2, which is negative 1. So I'm always getting negative 1 in the denominator. But now if I simplify this, check this, negative 1, so it becomes root 2 minus 1. Right, this here becomes root 2 minus 1. What about if I try the next one, the next term, 1 over root 2 plus root 3 multiplied by root 2 minus root 3 divided by root 2 minus root 3. So I'm getting 2 minus 3 in the denominator, which is negative 1, and on the top I'm getting root 2 minus root 3. So this one is going to give me root 2 minus root 3. That's 2 minus 3, negative 1 in the denominator, so that's going to give me root 3 minus root 2. So I've got root 3 minus root 2. Right, so we kind of have like each one, or if you try it out on the calculator, see the first value, you can just replace it. Right, so the answer is now equal to, remember the first one, I replaced the first one, I got root 2 minus 1 plus, right, next one when I replace, I'm getting root 3 minus root 2 plus, if I replace the next one, I'm getting root 4 minus root 3 plus dot dot dot, plus the last term will be root 100 minus root 99. Yeah, root 100 minus root 99, and the term before that will give me root 99 minus root 100. No, there will be root 99 minus root 98. Yeah, because you're getting 3, 2, 4, 3, 99, 98. Right? And what we see is that, see, that root 2 and the root 2 cancels out. Yeah, you'll have cancellation of everything inside here. So we can see the 1 remains here, okay? The minus 1 remains. we can see that positive root 2, negative root 2 cancels out, positive root 3, negative root 3 cancels out, positive root 4, that cancels out, the 99 will cancel out with the term before that, right? The 98 will cancel out. Remember, positive root 99, made a mistake here. Yeah, basically the 99 cancelling out is with this 99, and the 98 will be cancelling out with this one here somewhere. Yeah, in the previous bracket, and the only thing that will remain is root 100. So what we left with is negative 1 plus root 100, which is negative 1 plus 10, which is equal to 9. I hope you guys understood this. Right, so it wasn't even, it was just like a pattern where you had to rationalize. Well, you could have got this answer by just putting each one onto the calculator, but you need to show some working, alright? So show, they said without the use of a calculator, so you need to show this working here or this working to find a pattern. And it's just basically cancellations happening. I hope you guys understood that. Moving on to the next problem, question 2. Given the geometric series, we know the sequence is geometric, so we need to find common ratio, right? Is the series convergent? Let's find R. R is term 2 divided by term 1. Term 2 is 1 over 15 divided by 1 over 5 is multiplying by 5 over 1. Right, so I'm getting 5 times, okay, let's just divide, right? You're so used to, you know, calculators. Just work it out. Divided by 1 over 5, right? So you're getting 1 over 15 times 5 over 1. I'm getting 1/3. Right, so therefore series, remember 1/3 lies between, you need to say 1/3 is between -1 and 1. Remember, when the value is between -1 and 1, it is convergent, less than -1 divergent, greater than 1 divergent. Right, so -1 is less than R, less than 1. Therefore series is convergent. Right, so we have a geometric series which is convergent. Calculate the sum to infinity of the series. Sum to infinity is simple, because sum to infinity is equal to a over 1 minus r. The value of a is 1/5, first term, and 1 minus 1/3. So you're going to take 1/5. 1 minus 1/3 is 2/3, right? So divided by 2/3 multiplying with 3 over 2. So I should get 3 over 10 as the answer. Let's put this into the calculator and see if we actually getting that. Let's put 1 over 5 divided by, let's put 1 over 5, right? So 1 over 5 divided by 1 minus 1 over 3. Right, so I'm getting an answer of 3 over 10. That's the sum to infinity. Moving on to the next problem. An arithmetic and geometric sequence are combined to form a pattern which is given by, so you can see x, 2x, you can see x, 2x, 3x. We're just adding x each time, so that's an arithmetic sequence. So all odd numbers are arithmetic. All the even numbers, 1/3, 1 over 9, all the even terms are geometric. Write down the next two terms of the pattern. Simple. Right, so we're gonna write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 6 terms here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're gonna say P7 is 4x, and P8 is equal to the term 8. 3x, that will be 4x, 1 over 27, then times, you can see just multiplying the denominator by 3, so it's going to be 1 over 81. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Moving on to the next problem, which is determine the general term for the odd terms of this pattern. Write your answers in terms of x. Odd term is an arithmetic, so Tn is equal to a plus n minus 1d. A is basically the first term, which is x, plus n minus 1 times d. What is d? The common difference is also x, because 2x minus x. Remember, common difference is 2x minus x, which is also equal to x, and a is the first term, which is x. They said for the odd terms, right? The odd terms are x, 2x, 3x. Now continuing and opening this up, we're going to get x plus nx minus x. You can see x and x cancel out. The answer is just nx. I hope you guys understood that. Right, so moving on to the next problem. Calculate the value of P26. Now P26 is going to lie in the odd or even terms. It's going to lie in the even terms, right? P26 will be the even. See, the even term is 2, 4, 6, right? P26 is the same thing as saying, see, 26 divided by 2, right? It's going to give me term 13 of geometric, right? So it's going to be term 13 of geometric. What's Tn formula for geometric? A r to the power n minus 1. So we're going to say A r n is 13. 13 minus 1 is 12. What's the first term of the geometric? The first term of the geometric is 1/3. Right, so the first term of the geometric is 1/3. And the common ratio is also 1/3 to the power 12. Let's check. 1/3 and 1/9 is 1/3 times 1/3. So common ratio, or you can take 1/9 divided by 1/3 for common ratio. So let's take 1/9, right, divided by, supposed to be 1/9. 1/9 divided by 1/3. So I'm getting 1/3. Alright, so common ratio is 1/3. So now 1/3 times 1/3 to the power 12 is basically 1/3 to the power 13. And I want to see what that answer is. 1/3 to the power 13 should be a large answer. 1/3, close bracket, to the power 13. 1/159. 1/159, 4323. Right, so I hope you guys are understanding. 2.2.4, we have the sum to 21 terms of Pn is equal to 33,5. Determine the value of x. Now we know that the odd terms are arithmetic, see, x, 2x, 3x, and the even terms are basically geometric. So remember, you're going to have 11 odd terms because we started with 11 odd terms of arithmetic. So you got S11 of arithmetic plus S10 of geometric, and that's equal to 33,5. Now S11 is n over 2, is basically n over 2 into 2a plus n minus 1d. I'm just writing down the formula, plus geometric is a into 1 minus r to the power n over 1 minus r, and that's equal to 33,5. Now solving this, you got 11 over 2, the arithmetic, a is x, so 2x plus n minus 1d. N minus 1 will give me 10 because there's 11 terms, 10d, but the value of d is x, right, plus a, which is 1/3 in the geometric. The value of a is 1/3. Let's see, is 1/3. The common ratio is also 1/3. So 1 minus 1/3 to the power 1 minus 1/3 to the power 10, right, because there are 10 terms. Let's make this a square bracket. And we're going to divide it by 1 minus 1/3, and that's equal to 33,5. Now we can simplify the first one. You can say that's 11 over 2 into 14x, alright, because 14x plus 1/3. We're going to work out the value of this entire thing, and to work out the value of this entire thing, let's pop my calculator. Right, so to work out the value of this entire thing, we got 1 over 3 divided by 1 minus 1 over 3, take it up, into 1 minus 1 over 3, close bracket, to the power 10, and let's close bracket. So I'm getting 0.49999, so obviously I'm getting 0.5 here, right, is equal to 33.5. Now 33.5 minus 0.5 is 33. We have 33 on the side. Now on the left hand side, all we are left with 14 divided by 2 is 7. Should be 12. 2x plus 10x is 12x. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 6 times 11 is 66x. Therefore, x is equal to 33 divided by 66, which is half. I hope you guys understood that. Moving on to the next problem, which is question number 3. A quadratic sequence has the following properties. The second difference is 10. Now because it's a quadratic sequence, let's draw a diagram where you got 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. This is your Tn, right? This is your difference 1 formula, difference 1 terms, and that's your difference 2 terms. Now remember, when you take the first difference between these two, you're going to get something. You take the difference between those two. Then if I take the difference between these two terms, I will get something. Let's see. The second difference is 10, so that makes it easy. Second difference is 10. That is sorted out. Next one, the first two terms are T1 equals term 2. So the first two terms are equal. So I'm just going to make it x and x. Now x minus x is 0. So that's great because this will help me find the value of a. This will help me find the value of b. So we know the three formulas, which is 2a is equal to d2, 3a plus b is equal to d1, right? And a plus b plus c is equal to term 1, right? Now 2a is equal to d2, so 2a is equal to 10. Therefore a is equal to 5, right? So we've got a, which is 5, right? Now what we know is that 3 times a, 3 times 5 is 15, plus b is equal to d1. So what is difference 1? Yes, what is difference 1? Difference 1 is 0. Okay, so therefore b is now equal to negative 15n. Right, so I've got a and b, negative 15, no n there, and then a plus b plus c is equal to term 1. Now we should be using this. Okay, we should be using term 1 plus term 2 plus term 3 is equal to 28. But we already have a and b, so we can use this formula. Tn is equal to, so far we have 5n squared minus 15n plus c. We just need to find the value of c. Well, we know term 1 is x. Okay, so we know a and b. A and b is 5 minus 15, which is minus 10, plus c is equal to term 1. Term 1 is basically x. That's what we called it. But now this is not helping us to solve anything here because we've still got two unknowns. So let's use term 1 plus term 2 plus term 3 equals 28. So term 1 plus term 2 plus term 3 is equal to 28. Term 1 is basically, yes, what is term 1? Term 1 is x, term 2 is x, term 3, we can work out term 3 from here. See this? Tn, so we can say T3 is equal to 5n squared, so 5 times 3 squared. 5 times 3 squared, we're just substituting inside here, alright? So 5 into 3 squared minus 15 times 3 plus c. Alright, so I'm just trying to work out term 3 and putting it here now. So 5 into 3 squared. So what do we have? 5 times 9 minus 15 times 3. I've got 0. So that gives me 0, right? So this answer is just equal to c. So we know term 3 is already c. Okay? Term 3 is c, and that's equal to 28. So now I have a simultaneous equation to work with, because we know this is 2x plus c is equal to 28, and we know minus 10, we can rewrite this in this form. So we can take the c over, so x minus c is equal to negative 10. So let's put this equation down here. So we got x minus c is equal to negative 10. Now if we eliminate these two by adding, we're getting 3x is equal to 18. Therefore x is equal to 6. Now if x is 6, we can put it inside here. If x is 6, 6 plus 10. Therefore if x is 6, then c is equal to, put it into this equation, x is 6, take the value of negative 10 over, c is equal to 16, because 6 plus 10. Right, so now we got the value of c, which is 16, and we can put it here. Therefore 5n squared, therefore Tn is equal to 5n squared minus 15n plus 16. Is that correct? 5n squared minus 15n plus 16. Perfect. Is 216 a term in the sequence? Let's check. So we need to make the Tn formula equal to 216. So we got 5n squared minus 15n plus 16 is equal to 216. Now bring the 216 over. So you got 5n squared minus 15n minus 200 is equal to 0. So we can divide everything by 5. So we got n squared minus 3n. If you divide this by 5, I think you should get 40 is equal to 0. Let's check. 200 divided by 5. Yeah, 40. And we know 8 and 5 will work here. So 8 and 5 should work. N minus 8 into n plus 5 is equal to 0. So n is equal to 8 or n is equal to negative 5. So obviously we're going to say reject, right? Since n is not an element of natural numbers. Right, that's the reason why we're rejecting. So n is equal to 8. So 200, we know, therefore term 8 is equal to 216. So is 216 a term in the sequence? Yes. Yes, 216 is a term in this sequence, in this quadratic sequence. I hope you guys are understanding. Now moving on to question number 4. Right, so this question is on exponents. I think this functions and inverses. Yes, this is based on functions and inverses. So let's solve. If is p an increasing or decreasing function? So we need to check whether if p is increasing or decreasing. We can clearly see that as the values of x increases, the values of p decreases. Right? As x increases, this here decreases. Example, if x is 0, this is 1/3. So this is how you figure it out, right? So remember, x value of 0 gives me 1, right? X value of 1 gives me 1/3. So clearly we can see that when it is 0, it is 1. When we increase the value from 0 to 1, it became 1/3. So it is a decreasing function. Right, so decreasing function, right? So we know that 1/3 to the power x is a decreasing function. Next one, right? Determine P inverse, the inverse of P in the form y equals. So we know P is y equals 1/3 to the power x. So P inverse is switch the x and the y. X equals 1/3 to the power y. Now solve for y, right? So y is equal to log x base 1/3, and remember x needs to be greater than 0. I hope you guys understood that. So we wrote it in the form y equals, so that's an inverse function, log graph. Write down the domain of P inverse. The domain of P inverse, we actually wrote it down above. So domain has to be x is greater than 0. Right? Next one. Write down the asymptotes of the equation P of x minus 5. P of x minus 5. P of x and minus 5. So at the moment, we know what the asymptote of P is x is equal to 0. It has a horizontal asymptote, right? Asymptote of P of x, because this exponential function is basically decreasing, right? And the asymptote is a x-axis. X-axis has equation y equal to 0. Did I write y equals 0? X equals 0 is incorrect. That's a vertical asymptote. Is y equals 0. So the asymptote of P of x minus 5 is, we shifted this graph 5 units down, so it's going to be y is equal to negative 5, right? So it's horizontal asymptote. Okay, to be specific, right? So all you needed to give was this part here. Next question. I hope you guys understood this. We have 4 over x minus 1 plus 2, which is a hyperbola. Alright, we know we're going to write the asymptote. So when x is equal to 0 and the denominator is 0, we get a vertical asymptote. So x is equal to 1 is basically the vertical, right? And y is equal to 2 is the horizontal, right? Or you can just write down x equals 1 and y equals 2. That's sufficient. Next question. Calculate the x-intercepts of f. How are we going to calculate the x-intercepts of f? We're going to make y equal to 0. So if you make y equal to 0, you got 4 over x minus 1 plus 2 is equal to 0. Take the 2 over, you got minus 2 over 1, then cross multiply. So you got minus 2x, minus 1 times minus 2 is plus 2, and 1 times 4 is 4, right? So minus 2x is equal to 4 minus 2, which is 2. Therefore, x is equal to negative 1. I hope you guys are understanding. Right, so that's the x-intercept of f. Now remember, they didn't ask us for the y-intercept, but we can find it. Y-intercept, you just make x 0. So I think the y-intercept is minus 4 plus 2, which is minus 2, right? So y-intercept is minus 2. Don't forget that. So 0 and minus 2 is a y-intercept, right? And x-intercept is negative 1, 0. Okay, that's the x-intercept. And also when we're sketching the graph, remember we're going to draw the asymptote. The graph is in the first quadrant because, as we see, the value of a is positive, first and third quadrant. Now let's sketch this graph. I'm going to draw the axes first, x-axis and y-axis. just selecting the right pen. So that's my y-axis, right? So this is my x-axis. Now remember, we have y equals 2 and x equals 1. I'm going to draw x equals 1. Please put this x equals to 1 in broken lines, and we had y equals 2, right? So we're going to have another broken line here, right? So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so you got broken line for the asymptote. It's better to put it in the broken lines, right? I don't need the... Alright, so we have x, this is y equals 2, and this is x equals 1, and that is 0. And now we're going to sketch the graph. Remember to draw your asymptotes first. Now, what makes quadrants? The asymptotes makes the quadrants, right? So where's your first quadrant? There's it right here. And your third quadrant is here. That's where your graphs will go. Right, so my graph is, remember my x-intercept was -1, so -1 is right here. And my y-intercept was -2, so right here. Okay? And I'm going to draw this graph. Alright, so that's my graph. And my second graph is like this, coming down. Okay? Please draw it in pencil. And I'm going to label this graph here. This graph is basically f of x, right? So this is the graph of f. We label the asymptotes, vertical, horizontal. We label the intercepts, and we label the graph with the axes. Yeah, so all the information is provided there. Use a graph to determine the values of x for which 4 over x minus 1 is greater than or equal to -2. Now this one, you need to make it look like function, you know, f of x greater than 0 and stuff. So what you got is 4 over x minus 1, bring the -2 over, you're going to get +2 is greater than or equal to 0. So in this case, f of x, remember this is the same function as f of x, is greater than or equal to 0. This here basically means, where is the graph? Above the x-axis, above the x-axis, keeping into account all the asymptotes. So where is the graph above the x-axis? For x value less than -1, alright, less than equal to -1. So x value can be less than equal to -1, or x value is, when is it above? After 1. See, this value is 1 after the asymptote. You can't include the asymptote. So or x is greater than 1. I hope you guys understood that. Moving on to the next problem. Determine the equation of the axis of symmetry of f of x minus 2 that has a negative gradient. Now remember, f of x minus 2, we know what f of x is. F of x is basically axis of symmetry, alright? So f of x was 4 over x minus 1. 4 over x minus 1 plus 2. So f of x minus 2 will be f x minus 2, that is 4 over x minus 2 minus 1 plus 2. So that's basically 4 over x minus 3 plus 2. So we want to find the axis of symmetry of f of x minus 2. So we're going to say axis of symmetry is basically y equals, that has a negative gradient. Now negative gradient is basically only taking a negative in the denominator, right? So let's see, 4 over x minus 1 plus 2, that's what I have. 4 over x minus 2. So I replace the x with x minus 2, because that's what they want. And I've got 4 over x minus 3 plus 2. So the negative gradient is only negative in the denominator, right? Plus 2. So I'm going to get negative x plus 3 plus 2. So therefore y is equal to negative x plus 5. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Right, so quite simple so far. Even this one, right, wasn't a bad question. Straightforward, as expected. Now moving on to the next problem. Question 5. the graphs of the function f of x and g of x are drawn below. So we got a parabola and a line. Right, and obviously the parabola equation is written in turning point form, and that's just equation of a straight line are drawn. The graphs intersects at A and B. So remember, we can find the points of intersection A and B. Remember, A is also the x-intercept of the parabola. Write down the coordinates of the turning point F. So simple, 5.1, right? 5.1 turning point. So turning point is basically opposite sign here, minus 3 and 4. Right, so we have minus 3 and 4 here. Right? Write down the range of f. The range is of the f graph, which is a parabola, is sketched below the y values. So it's the maximum value coming down. So 5.2, straightforward, y is less than or equal to 4. Then, or you can say from negative infinity, excluding negative infinity, round bracket, to 4, square bracket. Show that the x coordinates of a and b are minus 5 and minus 2 respectively. Thus, to solve 5.3, what we need to do is we can see a and b, the points of intersection. So to solve 5.3, we're just going to say f of x is equal to g of x, right? Because that's the points of intersection. Now, in order to solve this, let's solve minus into x plus 3 all squared plus 4 is equal to x plus 5. Now open this up. Remember, I'm taking the negative inside as well, so you can get x squared plus 6x plus 9, so minus x squared minus 6x minus 9 plus 4, bring the x over, minus x minus 5 is equal to 0. So we have minus x squared, minus 6x minus x is minus 7x. What we have here is minus 9 plus 4, that's minus 5, which is minus 10 is equal to 0. So we got x squared plus 7x plus 10 is equal to 0. So what we have now is x minus x plus 5 into x minus x plus 2 is equal to 0. Both needs to be plus. Therefore, x is equal to negative 5 or x is equal to negative 2. Right, so we showed that the coordinates of a and b are minus 5 and minus 2. We have minus 5 and this is minus 2. I hope you guys are understanding. Next one. Hence, determine the values of C. Why did they say hence? Hence, determine the values of C for which the equation has one negative and one positive root. Right. So we want to find the value of C, but we know this is like a shift, a horizontal shift. We need to shift the graph horizontally. So let's have a look at this graph here, right? And see what we need to do with this graph. What should we do with this graph to solve this problem? And we have this equation. Now if I compare this equation, if I use this, what if I was solving this problem in such a way that I need to have one negative root and one positive root? In other words, I need to shift this graph somehow. I need to shift this graph and I need to shift the straight line. In other words, shift this entire thing simultaneously. So wait, let me just trace this graph for you to explain this, okay? I need to trace it in a single, because it's basically a horizontal shift. Right, so I've basically traced this graph, right? So I need to shift this graph horizontally in such a way that we will get one negative and one positive root. At the moment, the roots of these equation currently is both negative. Can you see? Because it's the points of intersection of both the graphs. At the moment is both negative, -5 and -2. So how should I shift this graph so I get both? I should get one negative and one positive. Let's try shifting it now. I'm going to shift it right there. So I'm kind of shifting it. Basically I'm shifting it 2 units to the right to get it at 0. So basically I need to go and shift it more than -2. Should be more than, wait 1 second. That's one part of it. I shifted it 2 units to the right, so I'm just getting 0. Over here I shifted 2 units. 1 second. What if I continue shifting this 5 units to the right? If I shift it 5 units to the right, this point will touch 0. So it needs to be, basically needs to be more than, x needs to be more than -5. See, I'm getting almost 0 here. That's at 5. At -2. So I think I may almost got the answer here. It looks like these points takes these points over here. It looks like these points makes a difference into when we're shifting it left and right. Right, so if I shift it, let's see. Let's just say 5 units to the right. I'm getting it right there, okay? If I shift it 5 units to the right, I'm getting it there. But if I shift it just less than 5 units to the right, I'm getting it there. So I can see one negative and one positive root. Right, so I have to shift it more than, alright, I have to shift it more than -5. And what about the 2 now? We got a 2 as well. So if I move it 2 units, if I move this points of intersection on the y-axis, shouldn't be on the y-axis, little bit more, so I can get one positive and one negative root. One positive root here and one negative root here. In other words, the points of intersection needs to be one positive and one negative. So I've got two conditions. It's either I shift it more than basically more than 2 but less than 5. Yes, so more than 2 but less than 5. More than 2 but less than 5. So what the value of C should be more than 2 but less than 5. But will that work? More than 2 but less than 5. Will it be positive or negative? Because now if I put 2 here, we know we are shifting it to the right. Shifting to the right means the value of C needs to be negative. Okay, so it can't be this answer. It has to be from -5 is to from -5 to -2. Yes, because remember you're moving to the right. If you're moving to the right, remember the value of C can't be positive. It has to be negative values. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. So that's my answer here, -5. The answer needs to be between -5 and -2. Let's move on to the next problem. The maximum distance between f and g in the interval xa to xb is k. Hence, if h of x is equal to g of x plus k, determine the equation h in the form h of x. The maximum distance between f and g in the interval is k. But now how do you find the maximum distance between f and g? To find the maximum distance, let me explain this. Alright, let's copy and put it here. To find the maximum distance between, you see this xa and xb means this is a and b. So we're trying to find the maximum distance here, the maximum vertical distance, right? So obviously the maximum distance between f and g in the interval is basically k. That's a value, that's what they said. That is, the maximum distance is k. And if h of x is equal to g of x plus k, determine the equation of h in the form. So first set up the distance formula. So we know distance is y top, the top graph minus the bottom graph. The top function is basically f of x, and the bottom function is g of x. I hope you guys are understanding. And we know what f of x minus g of x is. Can we use the, did we have f of x minus g of x? We've got f of x here and we minus g of x. So we can use minus x squared minus 7x minus 10 from above. Minus x squared minus 7x minus 10. So I'm going to find the maximum value of d. So we're going to say max, right? X max is minus b over 2a. Minus b will be minus 7 divided by 2 times negative 1, which is basically negative 7 over 2, because we got 3, we have to get a negative value. So we know at negative 3.5 this here occurs. Now to find the maximum distance, you need to take the value of negative 7 over 2 and put it into the distance. So d at x is equal to minus 7 over 2 is equal to now minus 7 over 2 all squared minus 7 into minus 7 over 2 minus 10. And that's going to give me an answer of, let's see, minus mod 1, right? So minus 7 over 2, right, squared minus 7 into minus 7 over 2, right, minus 10. And we get an answer of 2,25. So now what they said, the maximum distance between f and g in the interval is k. The maximum distance in the interval is k. So remember, therefore k is equal to 2,25. Now if k is equal to 2,25, then what is this? If h of x is equal to g of x plus k, determine the equation of h in the form h of x. So what is h of x? H of x is equal to g of x plus k, but g of x is x plus 5 plus k, which is 2,25. So I've got an answer which is x plus 7,25. I hope you guys understood that. Right, so very nice problem, something different, but I think the hardest question was this one, 5.4. Very different, crazy problem. They should have asked for a real rows, then we could have used delta and stuff, but very difficult. 5.4. Let's continue. Question 6. Now we are on to financial mathematics. Right, so what we have in financial mathematics, a company bought a photocopier for 150,000 on 1st July 2022. That's the cost of the photocopier. They will use an old photocopier as a trade-in when they replace it with a similar new photocopier in 5 years time on 30th June 2027. The average rate of inflation over the next 5 years will be 6.5% per annum. Determine the price of a similar new photocopier in 5 years' time. Inflation basically increases the price of items, so you want to accumulate the value. So P into 1 plus I, in other words inflation to the power n. So the P value is 150,000, right, into 1 plus 6,5 over 100 to the power of 5. So we're going to work out what this answer is. Right, in order to work this answer, we're just going to use our calculator. Let me pop my calculator here. Right, so mode 1, what we have 150,000 into 1 plus 6.5 over 100 to the power 5, and we get an answer of 205,513. I'm just going to round off, right? 205,513, right? Rands. Next one, they should talk about depreciation now. So I can see where this question is going towards sinking fund. Calculate the trade-in value of the old photocopier after 5 years if it depreciates at a rate of 9% per annum, straight line method. 9% per annum, straight line method. So it's not reducing balance, it is straight line method. In other words, every year is fixed. So accumulated value is equal to P into 1 plus IN, right? That's the depreciation rate. Now not plus, it's minus, right? Straight line depreciation. Yeah, because if you say plus, then that is simple interest. We don't want that. That's 150,000 into 1 minus the interest rate is 9 over 100 times 5 years. Okay, and let's see what answer we get here. 150,000 into, let's delete that, right? So we know we're going to get put a minus there. On top we got 9. Let's delete that. That's 9 over 100, and we said times what? Times 5. Right, so I've got 82,500. So what we know is that the price of the new printer in 5 years time is 205,513, and we're going to sell this printer, trade it in for the new one. So obviously there's going to be a shortfall or a sinking fund. Right, so we basically have a shortfall, right? So the company sets up a sinking fund to cover the replacement cost of the new photocopier. The fund earns interest at a rate of 7.85% per annum, compounded monthly. The company must make its first monthly deposit on 31st July and will continue to do so until 31st May, 1 month prior to the new photocopier being bought. How much should be deposited at the end of each month so that the company will be able to buy the new photocopier? Right, so it's a nice problem. We're going to solve this. So first we need to work out what's the amount of the sinking fund. Right, so we're going to work out SF, sinking fund amount, which is what's the previous value here? 205,513, 205,513 minus 82,500. So what we have here is 205,513 minus the answer. I've got 123,013. Right, now this person makes payment from the 31st July to, so we need to know how many payments this person makes, right? The company sets up a sinking fund. All right, the company made its first monthly deposit on 31st July, so we need to check how many months this is, right? So this person needs to save up for 123,013, right? He needs to save up that amount, and he's making monthly deposits. All right, there's nothing there at 1. Time period 1 is basically 31st July 2022, right? 22, and that's X, we don't know, at the second month making X, continues to do so until 31st May 2027. Remember 31st June, 31st June, 31st July, 31st July, 31st July 2027, no, 31st, sorry, not 31st, 30th June, 30th June, June has 30 days, 30th June will give me 60 months, right? But now 31st May will give me basically 59 months, right? And he wants to save up, let's see, how much should be deposited at the end of each month so that the company will be able to buy the new photocopier. So we need to check what's the monthly deposit. So remember at 59 there's also another deposit there, right? So I hope you guys are understanding. Right, so we're going to use the future value formula. I'm going to say 123,000. Remember the interest rate is in per annum compounded monthly, 7.85% per annum compounded monthly. So we're going to use the future value annuity formula, which is x into 1 plus I to the power n minus 1 all over I. Right, so we're going to solve for x. X is equal to f times I, right? Fi over, okay, let's fill in the values. What's the future value? 123,013. 123,013. But the future value needs to be at, we have a problem here guys, because the future value needs to be at a certain number of years. The future value, let's see where are they trading this in. The company sets up a sinking fund to cover the replacement cost of the new photocopier. The fund earns interest rate at the, alright, so the company will be able to buy the photocopier, but now they only buy the photocopier at the 60th month. After 5 years they need to buy the photocopier, so they only made deposit till X here. We have a missing payment here. Yeah, we have basically a missing payment, unless what they're trying to do here is, let's see, continue to do so until 31st May, 1 month prior to the new photocopier being bought. Alright, so you're ending your premiums here. This should not be the case. So you're not actually getting your future value there. So you stop paying here, right? And then you're gonna trade in, your sinking fund is set up here at 60, right? So the correct method will be this, and you have to accumulate this entire amount because you group this whole thing now with interest for another month to get there. So because remember the sinking fund is here, they want to replace the printer after 5 years. Do they say anything here? Cover the replacement cost of the new photocopier. When will the replacement cost take place? After 5 years. After 5 years is at 60 months. It's kind of ambiguous. Yeah, after 60 months. So we're going to say 1 plus I to the power 1 because we have to accumulate this whole thing for another month. Anyways, we're going to calculate the X value like this. So your shortfall is 123,013, and we have basically X, which we're solving for, into 1 plus 7,85 over 1200 to the power 59 because there's one short payment, right? Minus 1 divided by 7,85 over 1200 into 1 plus 7,85 over 1200. Now how we're going to solve this is we're going to multiply by this, cross multiply, then divide by all of this factor. So to solve for x, how are we going to solve for x? X is equal to 123,013 times 7,85 over 1200 and divided by 1 plus 7,85 over 1200, 7,85 over 1200 to the power of 59 minus 1, and multiply by this factor 1 plus 7,85 over 1200, and we get an answer for x. Let's substitute. Now it's just a matter of substituting and solving, right? Just typing it out because we got the setup done, right? So remember, sinking fund is at the end of the term, that right? So that's where we're messing up. You're not supposed to be equating it at 59. Right, so let's work this out. 123,013 times 7.85 over 1200 divided by 1 plus, make sure you put double brackets, 7.85 over 1200 to the power of 59, right, minus 1, right, close bracket, and then a factor 1 plus 7.85 over 1200, right? So see what answer we get. We're getting 1704,01. So 1704,01 rands per month. That's the amount that he needs to deposit at the end of every month. How much should be deposited at the end of each month so that the company will be able to buy the new photocopier? Right, so 1704,01. That's the amount. Right, so let's move on to the next question. Today Andrew borrowed 200,000 from a bank. The bank charges interest at 5.25% per annum, compounded quarterly. Very important, compounded quarterly. Right? Andrew will make payments of 6,000 at the end of every 3 months. So that's already quarters, right? So he's already paying every quarter. His first repayment will be made in 3 months from now. In other words, in the first quarter. How long in years will it take Andrew to settle the loan? So how are we going to solve this problem is we're going to get n, which will be in quarters, and then divided by 4 to get it into years. So we're going to use the present value formula for loan, which is x into 1 minus 1 plus I to the power negative n all over I. That's the formula we're going to use for loans. Right, so we're solving for n now, which is in quarters. N in quarters. That's what we have. In other words, quarterly payments. N is in quarterly payments. Right, so P is 200,000 is equal to x into 1 minus 1 plus, what's the interest rate? Interest rate is 5,25 over 400. Be careful, to the power negative n. It has to be over 400 because quarterly. If it's monthly, over 1200. All over the interest rate, which is 5,25 over 400. Now remember, we're solving, he's already paying x, which is 6,000. We're solving for n, right? So all the other values are given. Now what we can do is we take 200,000 divided by 6,000 and multiply it by 5,25 over 400. So we're going to take 200,000, right, divided by 6,000. Now you can already see the zeros are cancelling out, okay? And we're going to multiply it by 5,25 over 400, and we can see like another 0 is cancelling out there and there, so it'll be easy to type this, and all we left with is 1 minus 1 plus 5,25 over 400 to the power negative n. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring all of this term over to the other side and take all of this onto the other side. I'm just going to take log of the answer, right? Or better, if we work out all the left hand side on the calculator, let's see what we get. And let me take 1 minus all of this term. Alright, so what I'm getting is 1 plus 5.25 over 400, right, to the power negative n is equal to 1 minus this, 1 minus all of this answer. Let me see what I'm getting in log form. Let me see what I'm getting as a simplified fraction. Usually it works out 1 minus, I just have 2 over 6 here because all the zeros kind of cancel out. So I have 2 over 6, right, times 5.25 over 4. Yeah, because all the zeros kind of cancel out. 5.25 over 4. If you want, you can just type out the whole thing, alright? So I've got 9 over 16. 1 minus, so I've got 9 over 16 here. So all I'm going to do is n equals negative, because I'm going to have negative n. I still have to multiply both sides by negative n. So I'm taking log 9 over 16 base 1 plus 5.25 over 400. What is 1 plus 5? Maybe 1 plus 5.25 over 400. Maybe you get a nice fraction. 1621 over 600. Nah, I won't take that. I'll just keep it as is. Right, so we move that aside. I'm going to say 1 plus 5.25 over 400. Right, so now we're getting n is equal to log. We need to use negative, put a negative in the front. Negative log 1 plus 5.25 over 400. Right, and over there we're getting 9 over 16. Right, so we're getting 44,1243. 44,1243. Right, that's what I've got. And 44,1243, 2505. 2505. Quarterly payments, right? Quarterly payments. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to divide it by 4. Right, so I'm going to take this and divide it by 4. So I'm going to take 44 comma this and divide it by 4. So I'm going to get n is equal to 11,03 years. N is equal to 11,03 years. It's going to take me 11,03 years. That was quarterly payments, right? Because I said over here n in quarterly payments. So I hope you guys understood that. Now question number 7. Determine f prime x from first principles. Right, so how are we going to solve this? We're going to use our formula. Lim f prime x is equal to limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h, right, minus f of x all over h. That's the formula. Now I'm going to take 1 over h out. Right, so I'm going to take 1 over h into, what's f of x plus h? You're going to put x plus h here, minus 2 into x plus h all squared. In the replace x with x plus h, minus 1, minus f of x, which is minus 2x squared. Use brackets, guys. Right, minus 1 so you don't make mistakes. Limit as h approaches 0 of 1 over h. Now remember, I've got a minus 2 here, so I'm just going to open this up with this binomial. So in the binomial I've got x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. So I'm going to get minus, and I'm multiplying by negative 2. So minus 2x squared. Remember, I've got 2xh. Remember what you get here. You're going to get x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. So I'm taking a minus 2 inside here. Minus 2x squared minus 4xh minus 2h squared minus 1 plus 2x squared, right, plus 2x squared plus 1. Now what happens is that minus 2x squared plus 2x squared cancels out, minus 1 plus 1 cancels out. Now what you can do is take out h as a common factor. Limit as h approaches 0 of 1 over h into h. Right, I'm taking out h as a common factor as well. into minus 4x minus 2h, right? And now we can see the h's cancel out. The idea of cancelling out the h is because when you substitute 0 here, you're getting undefined. That's the reason why you need to factor it out. Limit as h approaches 0 of minus 4x minus 2h. That's what I have so far, right? And that answer is just equal to minus 4x. And if you differentiate this using rules, 2 times minus 2 is minus 4x. Take away 1 from the power. Derivative of constant is 0. I hope you guys understood that. Moving on to the next problem, which is 7.2.1. Must find the derivative of this. This is straightforward, very simple, because that's already written in power form. So f prime x is equal to 3 times minus 2 is minus 6. Take away 1 from the power, so x squared, plus 2 times 3 is 6, and take away 1 from the power, x. That's it. Minus 6x squared plus 6x. Next one. Now I always remember the rules for this, right? What's the rule? You get a surd rule and negative exponent. So negative exponent is, you see, if you have 1 over x to power n, it becomes x to power negative n. Also, the nth root of x to power m is x to power m over n. You only need to remember these two rules in differentiation, how to convert from negatives and how to use a surd. Now we can see we got a surd here, so we're going to simplify it into power form like this. So we got 2x plus 1 over 4, that's just half, right? And you can see the x to power, wait, the x is inside the square root. Okay, so since the x is inside the square root, it's going to be 1 over 2 root x. Root x is x to power half. Now you can rewrite this as plus half x to power negative half, right? So I hope you understood that, because that's inside over outside. Remember this part over here, you got that part to be 1 over 2 root x. Root x is inside over outside, 1 over 2. That's how I've got 1 over 2, and take it up becomes negative. I hope you guys understood that. So dy dx is now derivative of 2x is 2, because 1 times 2 is 2, and take away 1 from the power, x to power 0, plus or minus minus, because minus half times half is minus quarter, x to power, take away 1 from the power, minus 3 over 2. Now you can write this in positive exponent, which is 2 minus 1 over 4, and obviously this is going to go down, but it's a square root, right? So you can rewrite it as square root of x cubed. Right, so that's your answer. You don't have to write it in the last form, just that form is fine. Right, so I hope you guys are understanding there. Moving on to the next problem. The graph y equals f prime x has a minimum turning point at 1 and negative 3. Y equals f prime x. Which f prime x? Is it an independent question? Yes, it is, because that was 7.2, 7.3. Yes. Y equals f prime x has a minimum turning point at 1 and negative 3. Has a minimum turning point. A minimum turning point is somewhere here, right? So 1 and negative 3 is a turning point, right? Determine the values of x for which f is concave down. Values of x for which f is concave down. The graph of y equals f prime x has a minimum turning point at 1 and negative 3. Oh, wait. It has a turning point which is minimum. Has a minimum turning point at 1 and negative 3. Understand what is turning point, what is minimum turning point. Has a minimum turning point at 1 and negative 3. Does this mean that the turning point is minimum or maximum? Are they talking about this? let's assume that it's a cubic function because they're talking about concave up and concave down. Alright, so there's a turning point here, right? And there's a turning point here, so there's two turning points. Alright, so there's turning point 1 and there's turning point 2. So that's the max, right? And this is the minimum. So because they're talking about concave down, and we don't have much information on f of x, the graph y equals f prime x. Wait guys, this is a graph of f prime x. It's a derivative function. It makes sense now. This is a derivative function. The derivative function, this is a derivative function, right? So yeah, now it makes sense because they said y equals f prime x. I was actually thinking about f of x. Right, so this is a theoretical question. Right, so very difficult. Not difficult, I mean it's a challenge because you have to read between the lines. So we know this is the f prime x graph, right? And remember the x-intercepts on the f prime x graph gives you the turning point on the original graph. And the turning point on the f prime x graph, which is 1 and negative 3. The turning point on the f prime x graph gives you the inflection point. X value is the inflection point. So I think the inflection point is at 1. Now concave down, if you want concave down, you need to look at a decrease. You need to look at a decrease on the f prime graph. So where is f prime x decreasing? F prime x decreasing. In other words, we will find f double prime x less than f double prime x is less than 0 for concave down. Yeah, so basically you want to find where is f prime x decreasing. So the answer for this should be x is less than 1. X is less than 1 because it's decreasing for all values of x, which is less than 1. Right, so minimum turning point is correct. Turning point which is a minimum, and we are looking at the derivative graph. Right, so nice question. Moving on to question 8. Right, so what we have here is f of x. F of x is x cubed plus 4x squared minus 7x minus 10. Write down the y-intercept of f. The y-intercept of f, we just need to write down the value, so it's just a constant. So y is equal to, y-intercept is just 10, just negative 10. Write down, let me write in coordinate form, 0 and negative 10. Right. Show that 2 is a root of the equation. To show that 2 is a root of this equation, just substitute 2 inside, because 2 is a root means x equals 2. So we're going to show f of 2 is equal to 2 cubed plus 4 times 2 squared minus 7 times 2 minus 10, and we're just going to say that is 0 because this must show it. Right, so what you got, 8 minus 8 plus 16 minus 14 minus 10. Right, so we got 0. This implies that x minus 2 is a factor of f of x. Right, that's what this here implies. So x minus 2 is a factor of f of x. Well, we showed that is already 0, right? And now hence factorize f of x completely. So we're going to say x cubed plus 4x squared minus 7x minus 10 is equal to 0. So we're going to open one small bracket, which is x minus 2, and one big bracket, x squared is equal to 0. So we need to put down the values here. Minus 2 times plus 5 is going to give me, minus 2 times plus 5 is going to give me negative 10. So we just need to figure out the middle term here, right? So we're going to write x minus 2, and we need all the other factors, right? We don't know whether if the second part will factorize or not. Maybe we need to use the quadratic formula to factorize. Hence factorize f of x completely. They just said must factorize. They didn't say must solve for Did they say must solve for x? Did they say must solve for x? No. Okay, now let me show you a trick to do this. What we're going to do is to get this middle term value, alright, to get the middle term value, we're going to do this. We're going to multiply the -2 with this 1 over here, right? It always works. Right, we're going to multiply by the -2 with the 1. So what's your result? -2 times 1 is -2. Take the opposite sign, which is 2, and add it to 4. Right. So you're getting -2x squared plus 4x squared, which is 6x squared. But remember, just use the coefficient and write 6x. We don't write 6x squared, alright? We just write 6x. So again, -2 times 1 is -2. Opposite sign gives me 2. 2 plus 4 is 6. So I'm getting 6 there. And now to factorize this, we're getting x minus 2. And to factorize this, this is x plus 5 into x plus 1 is equal to 0. No, they just said must factorize f of x. So you can't say it's equal to 0, right? So you need to say f of x equals, right? Equals and equals. So we just factorize this completely. Don't say it's equal to 0. Then you're finding roots. If it is further given that the coordinates of the turning points are approximately at 0,7, and that sketch the graph of f and label all intercepts and turning points. Right, so we got x-intercepts here, which is -5. Right, so x-intercepts. What are the x-intercept? -5, -1, and 2. That's my x-intercepts, and I've got turning points here, which is 0,7 and -3,4. Right, so let's draw this graph, and it's a graph that goes like this because the value of a is positive. So that's a graph, that's the type of graph I will get. Right, so let me draw this graph here. Actually, let me draw the graph and then put the axes, right? Right, so I drew the graph. Let me put the axes now, because I already know what the x-intercepts are. And what was the y-intercept? The y-intercept was -10. So a little bit lower down, right? Y-intercept was -10. So I will put this next axis here, like somewhere close to -10, right? Remember, the graph is not drawn to scale. So this is the x-axis, that's a y-axis, that's 0. This value is -5, this value is -1, and that value is 2, right? And this turning point here is -3,4 and 20,8. Right, and this turning point here is 0,7 and -12,6, and this was -10 there. 0,7 and -12.6. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. And this is the graph of f of x. It's just a rough sketch, I didn't draw it to scale, as you saw. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Moving on to the next one. Use a graph to determine the values of x for which f prime x is less than 0. F prime x less than 0 means where is the graph decreasing. So we're looking for where the slope is negative on the f graph. So we're looking for decreasing where the line. So it's from -3,4 to 0,7. -3,4 to 0,7. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Moving on to the next problem. The gradient of the tangent to f will be a minimum. So looking for minimizing the gradient. What is the gradient? The gradient is already f prime x, right? Gradient is f prime x, and we want to minimize that. But now there's an easier way, because we got the turning points here already. Because we got the turning points here, just add the two values and divide it by 2. But we want more accurate, so let's use f of x. So f of x function was, what was f of x function? Let me just copy and paste it here. Alright, so f of x function was this. We want double prime x. Remember, we're minimizing the gradient. Minimum gradient means double prime x equal to 0. So we're kind of looking for the inflection point value. We want the values of x for which minimum gradient, right? So now we're going to find f prime x, which is 3x squared plus 8x minus 7. F double prime x is 6x plus 8 and make it equal to 0. We're minimizing the gradient. So x is equal to minus 4 over 3. Minus 8 over 6 minus 4 over 3. Right, so x value needs to be minus 4 over 3, which is approximately 1,33, negative 1,33. Or 1,33, the value of x. I will take minus 4 over 3 because that's more accurate, right? So remember, the gradient of a tangent to f, the gradient of a tangent to f basically means f prime x, and will be a minimum means double prime x equal to 0 when you minimize and maximize. So this means f double prime x is equal to 0, right? So straightforward. Now the last question here, where is f prime x times f double prime x less than 0? So what we need to look for here is where is the graph, when will you get less than 0? When you have positive times negative, that will give me 0, or negative times positive, which will give me 0. But then positive on the f prime graph means where the function is increasing, and negative means it needs to be concave down, right? And this negative over here means where it is decreasing, right? Where it is decreasing and concave up. So don't forget what you're looking for, right? So the x values when that happens. So let me look at this function that we have currently. Right, so we have a graph like this, and remember what we're looking for? We are looking for concave up. Don't forget what we're looking for, right? Move this down a bit. Remember what we are looking for? We're looking for increasing and concave down simultaneously, alright? Looking for increasing and concave down. So we have an increase here. Where's the inflection point? We just found minus 4 over 3 as an inflection point. Inflection point is somewhere around here, minus 4 over 3. Right, so inflection point. So all this is concave down. So concave down, and remember we wanted concave down and increasing. Concave down and increasing is all here, see? So from this point, so that point is minus 3, 4. So x is less than or equal to negative 3, 4. That's one answer I've got. Or, what's the second answer? We want concave up and decreasing. Concave up and decreasing is from here. So that point was minus 4 over 3, less than or equal to x, less than or equal to minus 4 over 3 to 0,7. Right, so I hope you guys understood that, to 0,7. So we want increasing and concave down. So is this part of the graph here, right? This is increasing and concave down, and this part here, remember this is still concave down, this concave up here, concave up from here, and is decreasing. So those are the two intervals we want, right? So that's using the graph. Is there another way to solve this? Yes, of course there's another way. I can show you the algebra method, or f prime x times f double prime x is f prime x times f double prime x is less than or equal to 0. Remember what is f prime x, but now it's going to be difficult to find the factors for f prime x, so we're just going to use the values that they gave us here, minus 3, 4 and 0,7, the x values, because remember to find the derivative is 3x squared plus 8x minus 7, 3x squared plus 8x minus 7, right? And f double prime x is 4, it is 6x plus 8. less than equal to 0. That's what we had. Right, now remember this here can become 3x plus 4. We just want the roots, okay? So this is 3x plus 4, and I'm going to simplify that as well. So let me see what this is now. I need to use the calculator, mode 5-3. You can also use the quadratic formula if you want to solve that. 5-3. So 3, 8 and minus 7. 3, 8 and negative 7. I'm getting x minus 0.7, right? And the other one I'm getting is negative 3 comma 4. What is that? Negative 3 comma 4. Negative 3 comma 4. So x plus 3 comma 4, and that one is going to give me x, because I'm dividing everything, alright, by 3 here. That's why I'm getting these values. And over here I'm going to get plus 4 over 3. Let me just use 1 comma 33 here, okay? Less than equal to 0. So those were your factors. So I hope you understood that. Now let's put all these values on the number line. So I've got negative 3 comma 4 on the extreme, then I've got negative 1 comma 3 on the extreme, 3 3, and I've got 0 comma 7 here. Now use these factors to simplify and see what you get. So let's use these factors and check what we get. Take any value after 0 comma 7, like the number 10. I'm going to get positive, negative, positive, negative. So what answers do we want? We want all the answers which is negative and equivalent. So going in this direction, and the answer is between negative 1 comma 33 and 0 comma 7. Right, so did we have the same answer before? Yeah, we had the same answer before. Right, so what's the answer here now? So you see, I gave you two alternatives. So x is less than negative 3 comma 4 or negative 1 comma 33, remember, is equal to 0 comma 7. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Let's look at the next question, question 9. A wire 12 meters long is cut into two pieces. One part is bent to form an equilateral triangle and the other a square. A side of the triangle has length 2x meters. Right, so remember, a wire is cut. We need to visualize this, right? So draw a nice picture and see what we're doing. Right, so this entire length of the wire is, so we're basically cutting the wire in such a way that one part is bent into an equilateral triangle, right? And each equilateral triangle has length 2x, 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 and 2x, because all sides are equal, right? So how much of wire did I use up here? I used up 6x. So what's the balance here? 12 minus 6x. Write down the length of a side of a square in terms of x. Write down the length of a side of a square. Now remember, the 12 minus 6x needs to form a square. So if that is forming a square, remember, each side are equal and you only have 12 minus 6x length. So it's going to be 12 minus 6x divided by 4. That will be the side of the square because each side is equivalent. So what's the length of the side of the square? Therefore, the length is equal to 12 minus 6x and divided by 4. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. Minus 6 divided by 4 is basically 3 over 2x. So I split up each one. Alright, I hope you guys understood that. Next problem. If this square is now used as the base of the rectangular prism with a height of 4x meters. Now they gave us a height of a rectangular prism, right? Which square? That square there above. If this square is now used as a rectangular height of the prism, determine the maximum volume. So we need to maximize volume. Volume is what? Area of base times the height. What's the area of the base? Area of the base of the square, right? So what's the area of base? This is already the base. So it's 3 minus 3 over 2x all squared. So what we got is 3 minus 3 over 2x all squared times height times 4x. Alright, and now we need to maximize this. So let's open this whole thing up. We got 9 minus the product of these two terms will give me, the product of these two terms will be 9 minus 9 over 2x times 2. It's just going to be minus 9x. Okay, and then 3 over 2x all squared is going to give me plus 9 over 4x squared times the 4x on the outside. Right, now 9 times 4 is 36x, minus 36x squared, 9x times 4 minus 36x squared, 9 times 9 over 4x squared times 4x, we can see the 4 and the 4 cancels out, plus 9x cubed. Right, so we have a nice volume function. So we got 9x cubed minus 36x squared plus 36x. Now we need to differentiate this and set it equal to 0 and see maximum volume, right? So volume maximum. Now remember, this is a cubic function, alright? It looks like this. So the maximum will occur at a smaller x value, right? Because the value of a is positive. Now this is v. Now what we have is derivative of this. We have 36 minus 72x plus 27x squared is equal to 0. I think we can divide this entire equation by 9. So we got 3x squared, 72 divided by 9 is minus 8x, and plus 4 is equal to 0. Now solving this, open up two brackets. I'm just going to show you a cheat on the calculator, otherwise you have to end up using the quadratic formula. But anyways, you can solve this because you only use 3x and x. Why we can only use 3x and x? Because 3 is a prime number, right? And let me try 4 and 1. Can I use 4 here and 1 there? If I use 4 and 1, if I use 4 here and 1 there, I'm going to get 12, 13. No, doesn't work out. We get 11 and 13. If I use 2 and 2, if I use 2 and 2, will that work out? Should be negative, negative, yes. So again, minus 8x minus 2x. So x is equal to 2/3 or x is equal to 2. So remember, the maximum volume will occur when it is 2/3. So we're going to say reject here, right? Because that's going to give me minimum. So volume maximum is 2/3. Right, so it's going to occur at 2/3 as I explained here at a smaller x value. Now if you substitute 2 over 3 inside the v formula, which is basically 9, wait, let me show you how to factorize this. So you're going to enter 3 minus 8 and 4. So mod 5 3 minus 8 and 4. So see, we're getting the answers 2, x equals 2 or x equals 2/3. So if you put it back into the brackets, you're going to say 3x, take the 2 over minus 2, and that's just take the 2 over x minus 2. Right, so we got the answer. Let's substitute 2 over 3 inside this function here. So we got 36 mod 1, 36 into 2 over 3, okay, close bracket, minus 36 into 2/3, 2 over 3, we're squaring that, plus 9 into 2 over 3, and we're cubing this. Actually a cube, right? So what answer are we getting? We're getting 32 over 3. Right, so my answer is 32 over 3. Units cube. Is there units of measurement given? Yes, meters, so meters cube. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Or you can write the answer as 32 divided by 3, 32 divided by 3. Right, so I've got 10,67 meters cubed. Right, so remember to round off to 2 decimal places. So that's my answer. Very nice problem. Right, let's continue on to question number 10. A group of people participated in a trial to test a new headache pill. 50% of the participants received the headache pill. right? Let's call headache H. And 50% of the participants received the sugar pill. Let's call it S. Right? 2/5 of the group receiving the headache pill were cured, were not cured. Right? So I'm going to use were not cured. So should we use N? Not cured. Just use not cured, C with a not. And 3/10 of the group receiving the sugar pill were cured. So I'm just going to use C as the so cured and not cured. I hope you guys understand that. Right, so let's see. Represent the information on a tree diagram. Indicate your diagram, the probability associated with each branch as well as the outcomes. So we're going to start with here. Right, so what we have, headache pill, and we have the sugar pill. So 50% of the participants received the headache pill, so half and half. 2/5 of the group receiving the headache pill were not cured, so 2/5 here, you're not cured, so not cured, and 3/5 were cured, obviously because the sum on the branches must be equal to 1. And then what's happening with the S? 3/10 of the group receiving the sugar pill were cured, so that's 3/10 were cured, so 7 out of 10 were not cured. Right, so what's the outcomes? We're going to write down the outcomes here. So what are the outcomes? The outcomes are H and not C, H and C, cured, S and not C, not cured, receiving the sugar pill and cured. Right, that's what we have. We have 4 outcomes. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Moving on to the next problem. Determine the probability that the person chosen at random from a group will not be cured. Not be cured is that one and that one. So probability that they will not be cured is half times 2/5 plus half times not cured, right? Half times 7/10. Right, so we can just enter this entire thing into the calculator and get the answer. So that's half times 2/5 plus half times 7 out of 10, right? And I've got an answer of 11 out of 20, right, which is basically 0.55. Let's check what's 11 out of 20. Yeah, 0.55. I hope you guys understood that. Right, so remember not cured is HC, probability of HC and probability of SC. So should we write that down? Okay, let's just write it down. That's a probability of HC, H and not C, plus the probability of S and not C. Right, so I'm choosing those two. Alright, so I can take out those ticks there. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Next one. 3 events A, B and C are considered. Probability of A is 2 out of 5, probability of B is 1 out of 4, probability of A or B is 13 out of what? 20. Now, are events A and B mutually exclusive? How do we check for mutually exclusive? How do we check for mutually exclusive? We're only looking for A and B. We have event A and we have event B. Right. So to check for mutually exclusive, the probability of A or B must be equal to the probability of A plus the probability of B. So probability of A or B must be equal to the probability of A plus the probability of B. So now what's the probability of A? 2 out of 5. What's the probability of B? Is quarter. Or you can check that the intersection is 0. That's mutually exclusive, right? Let's just put it in a Venn diagram with the sample space and everything. Right, so this is A and that's B, just for your information. Right, so now let's see. What's the sum of these two? 2/5 plus 1/4. So that's 13 out of 20. So this implies the given probability A or B is already 13 out of 20. Therefore, this implies A and B are mutually exclusive. Okay. So there's necessary calculations. Or you can say that the intersection is 0. Alright, next one. Determine P only if it is further given that probability of A or C is 7 out of 10. Is this a follow-up question? 10.2.1, 10.2.2. So it's from the same thing. Determine the probability of C, only C, if it is further given that A or C is 7 out of 10, A and C is 2 out of 5, and twice the probability of B and C. Twice the probability of B and C is equal to probability of A and C. So I'm going to try and draw a Venn diagram here to check what they want. Right, so I want to put A here, right? I'm going to put B here, right? A, B. Yeah, remember it's a three-way Venn diagram, right? So just checking, and put a C here, right? We want to find the probability of C only. But we have a problem here because we're not given all three intersections. We're not given all three intersections. So this is A, this is B, and this is C. AOC, the probability of AOC is basically that circle and this circle. Okay, let's fill in the information from before. We know the probability of A is 2 out of 5. The whole thing is 2/5. Probability of B is quarter. Probability of B is quarter. And probability of C, we don't have a probability of C here. Probability of A, okay, let's look at the information. AOC is 7 out of 10. AOC. AOC. So I don't think we have to look at the original here, right? AOC. AOC. But we know A and B is 0. Is A and B are mutually exclusive. A and B are mutually exclusive. And AOC is intersecting. A and C is intersecting and B and C is intersecting. Okay, so this diagram is not going to be like that. We're going to have an intersection here. So we need to separate. We can't intersect A and B, alright? Because we already proved that they are mutually exclusive. So if they are mutually exclusive, then it basically means they're intersecting with C only. Only C is intersecting. I'll tell you why. Right, so I'm going to do this rather. Right, so I've got C there. Because we know A and B are separate. Okay. Now what they said, A or C is 7 out of 10. Now look at this. A and C is 2/5. So A and C is 2/5. A and C. A and C is 2/5. So we can put 2/5 here, right? That information I'm transferring here. That's 2/5. And what else we have? So we can find B and C, which is 2/5 divided by 2. So 2/5 divided by 2 is B and C. So probability of B and C is equal to 2/5, and we're going to divide by 2, so we're going to get 1/5. B and C is 1/5 now. Okay, so I hope you guys are understanding. Now remember before, what was the probability of B? The entire probability of B was quarter, right? So the probability of B was quarter. So if we want this part only, so we need to take quarter minus 1/5. So we need to take quarter minus 1 out of 5. Right, so I'm getting 1 out of 20 for B here. Right, so, and what was the probability of A? Probability of A was 2/5. What was probability of A before? It was 2/5 already. Probability of A was 2/5. So there's nothing in A only. So it's kind of like, if there's nothing in A, then A is like completely submerged in C, because this part is 0. So A is like already inside C. This is like 0 here, right? So it's basically a diagram that goes like this. It's already, A is inside C. Yeah, so this is basically your A here. You can just call it A is here. Yeah, basically A is like completely inside C. A is here and B is there and C is there. Okay, so no, you know what, because sometimes they can ask for the probability of A only. What if they ask for probability of A only? So let's keep the A as 0 there. It's better. Let's just keep it like this. So we can see probability of A only is 0. A intersection C is 2/5 as we calculated from here. And did we use this information? AOC is 7 out of 10. AOC is 7 out of 10. AOC is summing up the entire circle of C with the A. So we need to say AOC. So what is the probability of C only? So probability of C only will be equal to 7 out of 10, because AOC is 7 out of 10, minus 2/5, right? Minus 1 over 5. So 7 out of 10 minus 2 over 5 minus, why am I dividing? Right, so 7 out of 10, okay, minus 2/5 minus 1/5, and I'm getting an answer of 1 out of 10. Right, so did that answer my question here now? That is 1 out of 10. So what is probability of C only? Only C is 1 out of 10. So I've got the answer. Let's move on to the next one. Determine the probability of the events A, B, or C do not take place. What's the probability that they do not take place? Add up everything here and take 1 minus. So 1 minus everything. So the probability that do not take place is 1 minus 2/5 plus. Why are we adding all this? We already know that this entire circle of C is 7 out of 10. Right. So we just need to say 7 out of 10 plus 1 out of 20. Right, because we already know 2/5 plus 1/10 plus 1/5 is already 7 out of 10. That was the probability of C. Right, and that will give me 1 minus 7 out of 10 minus 1 out of 20. Right, so that's quarter. The answer is just quarter. Right, so I hope you guys understood that. Or you can write 0.25. Next one. Right, so what we have here is 7 boys, 7 friends. 4 boys and 3 girls want to stand in a straight line next to each other to take a photo. In how many ways can 3 girls stand next to each other in the photo? So the 3 girls needs to be together. So girl 1, girl 2, girl 3, and you got boy 1, boy 2, boy 3, and boy 4. 4 boys. So we're going to group them up because they want to stand together, right? So that's basically 3 factorial, and we're going to take them as a single entity because they can move in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So times 5 factorial. Simple, right? So in how many ways? So 3 shift factorial times 5 shift and factorial, we're getting 720 ways. I hope you guys understood that. Next question. In the next photo, determine the probability that Selvin, a boy, and Lindy, a girl, will not stand next to each other in the photo. Right, so find that they stand next to each other, standing together, right, is basically because Selvin and Lindy were, right, so we're going to group them up, one entity, and what we left with, how many girls, we don't need to worry about because there's others, 5 others. Okay, now this is basically 2 factorial times, we're going to take them as a single entity, right, and they can move around in between the others. So 1 plus 5, so that is 6 factorial. So now 2 times 2 factorial is just 2, and 6 factorial is basically 1440, right, 1440. Now standing not next to each other, in how many ways that they are not standing next to each other, it's going to be, so the probability will be over 7 factorial. So the 7 factorial is the number of ways that they can is the total arrangements minus that they are standing together will be not standing together, right? So 1440. So I hope you understood this. So they're not standing together in 7 factorial minus 1440. Standing together is 1440, and not standing together, not standing together will be the total number of ways, 7 factorial minus 1440. Okay, so I hope you're understanding this. So my answer now is, what is 7 factorial minus 1440 over 7 factorial? Let's check. 7 factorial minus 1440 over 7 shift and factorial. I'm getting an answer of 5 over 7. Nice, neat answer. Alright, so I hope you guys understood that. Thank you for watching my video as well, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel.